Hello guys and welcome to a whole new Couchizo. Today we have a very good set of peculiar games. We're going to be talking about cyborgs with amnesia, and in our air freshener moment we're going to be talking about a game that brings us back to the classics of 1987. Blade, what about you?
Nah, I'll just bring the bazooka. So sit tight, we'll be right back.
Alright, the bazooka it is.
And welcome back to a new couch. I hope everyone had a great week. I'm sure we had a great week here. And DJ, let's get right into it tonight.
Yes, let's get right onto it. You start, you go ahead.
Okay, I'll go ahead with lots, and I mean lots of mold. And an overload of mold. Oh yeah. I'm going back to 1984, 85 in Europe, to talk about a Commodore 64 game called Mission Impossible. Have you played this one?
Not on the Commodore 64. No, not on the Commodore 64. But I did play the Mission Impossible, and if I'm recalling correctly, on the ZX Spectrum.
Oh yeah, but I'm a pro at dissuading you. I eluded you again. It's not Impossible Mission. It's Impossible Mission, not Mission Impossible, you bastard. I always get you. I always get you. I just tweak the name a bit and you just fall for it.
So what's the game then? Is it Mission Impossible or Impossible?
Nah, it's Impossible Mission from 1984, released in 85 in Europe for the Commodore 64. And this was a cool game because it was a platformer where you went into several rooms. It was a huge tunnel where you had a mission with a secret agent where you had to explore basically the furniture in each level in search of puzzle pieces. These puzzle pieces, you would start storing them to assemble those pieces in 4 blocks in the future, so you get a full code to deactivate to kick the $1 million maniac. Not the $1 million maniac, that was Dr. Evil, remember? I had to bring this one up. I had to bring this one up.
But again, I played this game. I told you, I played this game on the ZX Spectrum. I mean, obviously the C64 colors are...
It was cooler.
Seem much cooler than the ZX Spectrum version. But still, it's the same game. It's the same, practical application.
What I was mentioning, I had to bring Dr. Evil up because he's a legend. He's just a legend. But the evil genius in this game was Professor Erwin Attenbender, and I distinctly remember in this game, and this was something very peculiar to the C64. When you started the game, he said something in the lines of "Welcome to my lair, have a nice stay, or stay forever," and he would laugh, and the voice was like a maniac's voice. It was so cool. And the game will take roughly like half an hour. That's the time you had to get the puzzle pieces, avoid every robot in the level, and get to the final area and just basically put in the code and win the game. This was the game. It was simple. It was a rather simple game. You wouldn't shoot, you wouldn't do anything else than just go to pieces of furniture, search them, get the puzzle pieces, assemble the puzzle pieces, get them all, get the code, win the game. You had 30 minutes. If you got hit and killed, you'd lose 10 minutes, so it was a huge blow. But it was a cool game because you would actually need to be focused on this one. And even when you had to assemble the puzzle pieces, you really had to have a good look at them and to be able to fit them. You even had to spin them around so you could fit them. And it was really cool, but you had a blessing in this one. When you were assembling the puzzle pieces, time would stop. It was nice.
I don't remember anything about this game.
It was so cool.
It's been a while since I played this one. I remember it because I looked at it and I didn't remember playing it, but not something that I would play to exhaustion and that I would remember exactly what it was. I actually checked the line. The line says another visitor, stay a while, stay forever, and there was another one that would say destroy him, my robots. That's the digitized speech that would come up.
No, and at the end he would complain that you were beating him. I don't remember the lines exactly. but it would just sound so pissed at the end. It was really cool.
No idea. I mean, but probably that's online, and then probably people will try the game and just to check the digitized speech.
Oh yeah.
It seems to be a cool game for the C64. I mean, I liked it for the ZX Spectrum. The C64 one seems to have more colors, so probably, or not more colors, maybe. Well, more colors also, but different colors. Anyways, and we're gonna move a little bit forward to. I would consider a very, very special game, also to me, that I played a lot. And we're going to talk about Bioforge from 1995 for MS-DOS, and this was developed by Origin Systems and published by Electronic Arts.
Such a cool game.
You know, Bioforge was developed as the ultimate interactive movie experience, as it was very common at the time. I mean, remember FMV was the best thing in the world in the 90s or the mid-90s. Yeah. So the game starts immediately with a pre-rendered sequence where we see a spaceship landing on a base somewhere on a distant planet. We take the role of a amnesiac cyborg trying to escape this research facility where he's being held captive. Now, despite that the story has obviously much more than meets the eye here, obviously this is no amnesic cyborg, this seems to be something weird. This was intentionally done so in order for the player to leave the experience and uncover clues that will further explain the reason why he was initially in this facility. I will not tell you exactly what that is because the plot is very interesting, but I can tell you that Bioforge was one of those games that I loved just for the big box art cover. And I wasn't really disappointed, you know, unlike many ZX Spectrum games back then that we looked at the covers and we got disappointed. But just looking at that, you know, kind of like radioactive metal arm was something very attractive to me. And I mean, I could have just bought the game over by the box and not even known what the game was there. But the game was actually cool. So
yeah, because we never bought games back then, just bought it for the box.
No, we always bought it because, because
I'm quite sad about this one game because when I bought it, it only had that jewel case box. It didn't come in a big box. It was
I saw it on this old mention that I used to mention this like video club, but for games. It was there and it had a big box there, so it did exist. Some to it. So the game focuses on puzzle solving by using items, fighting, and a lot of NPC conversation. The controls are quite simple, using the cursor keys, which is similar to Alone in the Dark. The control scheme is quite similar. Inside our body, we have an interchangeable and depletable battery that powers the various body functions that we have available. As we explore, we fight our way through this facility. We'll be picking up extra batteries, ranged, and melee weapons. However, there is no inventory, so only one object can be picked at a time. And you know, the important part here is that planning is key, so we have to make sure that we have the right object to advance. Most of the plot is unraveled by documents or digital data that is obtained along the journey, so many of them about several subjects who have lost their memories and were driven to insanity due to some experiments being made with them. Technically speaking, the game uses a software-only 3D engine to render its graphics at a resolution of 320 by 200, so no acceleration here and only 256 colors. So we have to set the expectations right. It will be a very, very low resolution for today's standards. And I don't think that there's any option to upscale it. Now, overall, I mean, I found the game that it's very, very good, and I have very, very, you know, fond memories of. But one of those things that I have to say is that, you know, it didn't really age very well. The controls are really clunky to start with, and despite the marvelous job that, you know, GOG does with all these games in releasing them using DOSBox and stuff like that, the fact is that, you know, I had some input lag problems. And this is something that is also described on the GOG forums, and so other users already experienced. So, but luckily, and here comes the new part, is that I am about to assemble a pure MS-DOS machine from around 1994, 1995. And this is one of those that I want to actually bring up to this computer and play on original hardware, because I know that probably it's going to be slightly different than played on emulation.
It's a completely different experience.
Yeah, I mean, on this one, I think it will make the difference. I just don't know if my S3 Verge DX will be able to play this. I think it's a 1 megabyte graphics card or 2 megabytes or something like that. I need to check. I don't really remember the memory of that card. But I got a Sound Blaster IWE, so that's something else for a later, maybe for a later video. As for the price, well, I don't think €5 will hurt that much. But in the end, it's up to you if it really strikes you the curiosity to spend the money on the game. But if not, Uncle Google is your friend, as we usually say, and you're going to be able to find it. I have this game for, I have the not the original, I have a backup of it for my old PC that I used to use, but I have this on the GOG, and as I said, input lag issues slightly, but it's still playable. It's still okay. It's not like terribly bad, so you can still enjoy it, and it's a fun little game. So, what about you, Blade?
It had gimmicky controls back then, but it was cool.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
exactly.
Let me dive right back into the Sega Saturn, and let's go back to 1996 to talk about this really cool game called Johnny Bazookatone.
It's one of those. It's one of those that I didn't really play that much, but I know a couple things about the game. So go right ahead.
No,
I'll fill the blanks for you.
It was oddly at the time a 2D platformer because 3D platformers were booming, and they just made a 2D platformer with a character that was just really inspired on Elvis.
Very, very similar to Clockwork Knight.
Yeah, very similar to that indeed. Yeah. And you had this guitar that was actually a weapon, the so-called bazooka.
Yeah, exactly.
That was more like a machine gun, mainly. And this was a simple platformer. It wasn't a bright one. It had a few issues in it, but it was cool to play because some platforms are actually hard to spot on the scenarios because they were so blended in. You sometimes wouldn't know where you could land or what was an enemy.
Yeah.
But after you played for a while, you'd know. It had a very simple storyline. You were basically trying to recover your guitar called Anita from El Diablo that took you to the future and got you locked in a prison called Sin Sin Prison. This was basically the story because he was jealous of your talent and he locked a few other musicians. You had bosses around every couple of levels and it was a cool experience. It wasn't a super game, but the game looked so cool back then, and what made this game shine wasn't the game itself, it was the audio track. I rarely talk about audio in the games, but the soundtrack in this one was just very enjoyable.
Yeah.
It was so cool.
It had the participation, or at least the help on developing from Richie Sambora, which was the guitarist of Bon Jovi at the time.
Yeah, it did.
And that's the same feeling I have on this game. Is the soundtrack is amazing. I think the levels were quite well designed. The colors were really
It was really colorful. It was cool. It
nicely used.
Looked really good.
It wasn't extremely difficult, but the problem is that we're talking about a 2D because this is essentially a 2D platformer in 1996. So I think that the biggest problem lies around there. It's quite ballsy to do this. Like
it was
a very ballsy move to launch such a title that it's something that most likely, I mean, not at this level, but the 16-bit consoles could do it, and even the 8-bit consoles could do it already in 2D. So it's kind of like it kind of stood back in time a little bit or didn't move forward. But again, as I said, I didn't really play it that much. I think that it's an excellent game. It strikes me a lot like cool. Clockwork Knight, and that one I did play and had a lot of experience with it. So I mean, it's a nice, decent game, I guess.
Yeah, it's a cool game. It's not a super game, but the soundtrack and the sheer looks of it, they actually look good. Then the box art was appealing back then.
I think it does have a better soundtrack than actually the game deserves, to be honest.
Oh yeah,
I wouldn't say that the game is such a gem, but the soundtrack is really nice. The intro is really cool. I remember the intro song, really, really nice. So yeah, I mean, it's a decent little game. I think it's something that's worth playing again on if you don't have anything else to play, which is quite impossible nowadays. Anyways.
Oh yeah.
So I think that we have to close off. I think we have a very, very good air freshener moment, and today, for our air freshener moment, I really I'll let you know, guys. It's a point and click. Obviously, it's a point and click, but it's a very, very good point and click. So I'm going to talk about Thimbleweed Park from 2017. This was released for several platforms: PC, Macintosh, Android, iOS, PS3, I think PS3 or PS4. Not really sure. But again, it was released for several platforms, and this was developed and published by a company called Terrible Toy Box. Now, you might not have heard about Terrible Toy Box, but I'm sure that you all know who Ron Gilbert is. So the legendary creator of one of the best point-and-click adventures of all times, the Monkey Island series, Ron teamed up with Gary Winnick, which was one of the co-designers of Maniac Mansion back in the LucasArts times in the late 80s. So if we talk about Monkey Island and Maniac Mansion, I have to tell you that this game is one of those that is really, and I mean really, takes the old school point-and-clicks, you know, that we played back in the day back to life. And it was really well done. We take the role of several characters in the story, just like, you know, like we did in Manic Mansion. Starting with FBI agent Ray and Reyes, which are called down to the town of Thimbleweed Park to investigate a murder. In order to investigate who's behind the mysterious murder of Chuck, the owner of the Pilotronics robotics company, we will get to know several persons of interest such as Ransom the Clown, a clown that, due to his bad performance, got stuck on wearing his makeup forever, so he cannot take his makeup off. Dolores, the young computer programmer, and Chuck's niece, and her not-so-nice father called Franklin. So, now, I'm sure that you can see right now by the trailer that, or the gameplay that we're passing right now, is that graphically this was definitely was very inspired in some of the classics we mentioned earlier. The dialogues are full of humorous references, snarky little comments, as well as the characteristic huge heads that we saw in the 1987 classic, the Manic Mansion. Like the characters had really huge head. Were quite disproportionate to their bodies. So the title enjoys its 2017 creation, but set 30 years in the past. There are numerous references to LucasArts games, and there is even one entire side plot throughout the whole game where one of our characters is trying to apply for a position of Mucus Phlegm adventure game designer. So they kind of switch the wording there, but this is all related to a lot of pop culture references and so on. Much like Monkey Island 2, we have two modes called casual and hard, where the puzzles increase in difficulty or even are presented in areas where they were not in the casual mode. Now, I know that adventure games in the past could result in, you know, hours of pixel hunting. However, Ron and Gary did insert something very handy on this one that is called to-do lists. It's basically a sheet of paper that you have in your inventory that tells you your objectives and the plots that you are following. So, you know, in a bullet point manner, so that you never lost wondering, you know, what do I have to do now, or what do I have to do next? I have to let you know that if you select the casual mode, it cuts pretty much to half of the puzzles and also the game, you know, gameplay time. I went straight to hard, and it took me around, you know, 35 to 40 hours to finish the game. This is the average time that it takes. At the time of filming, this game is available for PC at €16.49, GOG and $9.99 for Android and iOS, Nintendo Switch also for $9.99. So among other platforms that you can also find it. So it's a very good game. If you guys enjoyed Manic Mansion, if you guys enjoyed the classics from LucasArts, this game has definitely all the nicks and knacks that we used to have back in the 80s, back in the 90s. LucasArts, and I mean obviously Ron Gilbert and Gary Winnick just you know went straight forward. They started planning developing this game in 2014, if I'm not mistaken. This was actually crowdfunded, and they had initially set a target of $320 something $1,000, and they ended up getting 600 and something, which enabled the game to be fully voiced over in several languages. You have it in Spanish, French, Italian, German. It's amazing, and it's a great game. If you guys, after playing this one, if you guys want to try something else, the Epic Store has something which is a mini adventure of Thimbleweed Park, which is just with the character Dolores, which is a young programmer, and it's for free. So if you want to try just a little bit of what it is, Epic Games has this one for free, and then you can actually buy the game full version. That is the one that we just talked about now. It's excellent. It gives you I think €16 is more than fair for the work that they did here. And honestly, I think that everyone, if you are fans of point-and-click adventures, especially the LucasArts ones, you should definitely try it because it's an excellent game. So I guess that's it. Did you play this one, Blade? No?
I haven't completed it yet. I still have it on
You
my
haven't.
to-do list.
Okay.
I tried
Well,
it out. It looked really awesome. I played it for a bit. I was enjoying it, but there were
You know,
some
I went
priorities at the time.
I went totally unknown on this. I saw this on GOG and I saw that, oh my god, but this looks so much like Manic Mansion. And I thought,
Yeah.
okay, so you know, this is kind of I think I got a sale on this. It was fairly cheap. I mean, I think it cost me like €5 or something like that. And I said, I went ahead and just bought the game. And then I started playing it and I loved it so much and I enjoyed it. I played the whole game until the end without even knowing that this was, I mean, I probably saw the name, but I didn't, you know, associate immediately that this was created by Ron Gilbert and by Gary Winnick. So that's the thing. I mean, I played this game completely on the unknown and ended up having a very good surprise by the end when I actually went to look through this game and said, okay, so that's why it is so good. That's the reason why it is so good, is because, you know, you have two mythical creators of adventure games right here.
You have the real geniuses there.
Exactly. I mean, some of the real geniuses.
Some of them, not all of them.
Of course, not all of them. Not like Paul Cuisset, because now we have to apologize to Pixel because we didn't know who he was on the last on the last episode. Yes, I'm sorry. We don't know everyone, and sometimes these things happen. So, Blade, I think we can wrap this up for today.
Yeah, after we ask for just a like and a subscription, and we'll leave it like this.
Exactly like that. As we usually say, guys, just leave a like if you like it, dislike if you didn't like. Just remember to subscribe our channel. We would really enjoy to have more people with us so that we can continue sharing this type of content.
Couch party.
Exactly, doing a mega couch party.
Oh yeah.
And as you already know, and as we already say, guys, thank you very much for being there. See you next week, and game on.
See everyone next week. Game on.